Stop before you fill up again. There are 5 sensors in your engine bay literally burning your money. No check engine light, no warning, just your fuel economy dropping month after month. I'm about to show you which sensors are killing your MPG and the 15-minute fix that could save you hundreds this year. Here we go. Sensor 1, Mass Airflow Sensor. Alright, sensor number 1 is probably the biggest gas mileage killer in your entire engine bay, and most people have no idea it even exists. I'm talking about your Mass Airflow Sensor, or MAF sensor. So here's what this thing does. Every single time you start your car, air is rushing into your engine through the intake. Your MAF sensor sits right here in that airflow, and its entire job is to measure exactly how much air is coming in. Now, why does that matter? Because your engine's computer, the ECU, needs to know that number to calculate the perfect air-to-fuel ratio. Ideally, you want about 14.7 parts air to 1 part fuel. That's the magic number for complete combustion and maximum efficiency. But here's the problem. Your MAF sensor has these incredibly delicate wire elements or a thin film sensor inside. And over time, oil vapors from your engine, dust that sneaks past your air filter, and general contamination build up on these elements. When that happens, the sensor starts lying to your computer. It might tell the ECU there's less air coming in than there really is. So what does your computer do? It dumps in more fuel to compensate. You're now running rich, burning more gas than you need. And that extra fuel? It's just turning into pollution and wasted money. How bad can it get? A dirty MAF sensor can easily kill 10 to 25% of your fuel economy. If you're getting 25 miles per gallon, that could drop you down to 20 or even 18. That's massive. The symptoms are pretty obvious once you know what to look for. You'll get a rough idle, hesitation when you step on the gas, your fuel economy tanks, and sometimes you'll get a check engine light with codes like P0101, P0102, or P0103. Those are all MAF-related codes. Now, here's the good news. Cleaning this sensor is stupid easy, and you can do it in about 10 minutes. First, you need to find it. It's located between your air filter box and your throttle body, right in the intake tube. Usually held in with a couple of screws or clamps. Pop those off, disconnect the electrical connector, and slide it out. Now, this is critical. You need to use MAF sensor cleaner, not carburetor cleaner, not brake cleaner, not WD-40, MAF sensor cleaner. It's specifically formulated to not leave residue and not damage these delicate elements. You can grab it at any auto parts store for about $8. Spray those wire elements or the film sensor inside. Don't touch them with your fingers or anything else. Just spray. Let the cleaner evaporate for about 5 to 10 minutes until it's completely dry. Then reinstall it. While you're at it, check your air filter. If that thing's dirty, replace it. A clogged air filter makes your MAF sensor work even harder and gets dirty faster. Do this every 30,000 miles or so, and you'll keep that fuel economy right where it should be. Sensor 2. Oxygen sensors. Sensor number 2, or really sensors 2 through 5 depending on your car, are your oxygen sensors. And these are absolute fuel economy killers when they start going bad. Your car has anywhere from 2 to 4 oxygen sensors screwed into your exhaust system. You've got at least one before your catalytic converter. That's called the upstream or pre-cat O2 sensor, and at least one after the cat, which is the downstream or post-cat sensor. Some cars have 2 banks of cylinders, so they'll have 4 total. Here's what they do. As your engine burns fuel, it creates exhaust gases. Your oxygen sensors sit in that exhaust stream and measure how much oxygen is left in those gases. If there's a lot of oxygen, that means you're running lean, not enough fuel. If there's very little oxygen, you're running rich, too much fuel. These sensors send that data back to your ECU in real time, hundreds of times per second, so your computer can constantly adjust the fuel mixture to keep you right at that perfect 14.7 to 1 ratio. This is a closed-loop feedback system, and it's why modern cars get such good fuel economy compared to old carbureted engines. Your O2 sensors are doing micro adjustments all day long. But here's where it goes wrong. Oxygen sensors live in your exhaust, which is an incredibly harsh environment. You've got extreme heat, carbon deposits, oil contamination if your engine's burning oil, and general wear and tear. Over time, carbon builds up on the sensor tip, and the sensor starts responding slower and slower. Instead of reacting instantly to changes in the exhaust, it lags behind. When that happens, your ECU can't fine-tune the fuel mixture anymore. And here's the kicker. When the ECU isn't getting good data, it defaults to a richer fuel mixture for safety. It's basically saying, better to run a little rich than risk running too lean and damaging the engine. So you end up burning way more fuel than necessary. A bad oxygen sensor can kill your fuel economy by 15 to 40%. That's not a typo, 40%. I've seen cars go from 30 miles per gallon down to 18 just from a failed O2 sensor. The symptoms? Honestly, the biggest one is just decreased gas mileage. A lot of times, that's the only symptom you'll notice early on. Eventually, you might get a check engine light with codes from P0130 to P0167. Those are all oxygen sensor codes. You might fail an emissions test. The engine might run a little rough. Now, here's the truth about cleaning oxygen sensors. You can do it, and I'll show you how, but it's really just a temporary fix. These sensors are designed to last about 60,000 to 100,000 miles, and once they start going bad, you're better off just replacing them. But if you want to try cleaning them, here's how. You need to locate them on your exhaust pipes. They look like spark plugs with a wire coming out. You'll need an oxygen sensor socket, which has a slot cut in the side for the wire. Unscrew the sensor, and here's the sketchy part. Soak the tip in gasoline for about 15 to 20 minutes. The gasoline dissolves some of that carbon buildup. Then take a soft wire brush and very gently clean the tip. Don't go crazy, you can damage it. Honestly though, if your oxygen sensors are more than 80,000 miles old and your fuel economy is suffering, just replace them. They're not that expensive, usually 20 to 80 bucks each depending on your car, and the difference in fuel economy will pay for them in a few months. This is one of those things where replacement is better than cleaning. Sensor 3. Throttle position sensor and throttle body. Sensor number 3 is actually a combination, your throttle position sensor and your throttle body. These work together, and when they get dirty, they absolutely destroy your fuel economy. Let's start with what the throttle body does. This is basically the gateway for air entering your engine. When you press the gas pedal, you're opening a valve called the throttle plate that sits inside the throttle body. Open it more air rushes in. Close it, less air comes in. Simple, right? Now, modern cars have what's called electronic throttle control, or drive-by-wire. There's no physical cable connecting your gas pedal to the throttle body anymore. Instead, when you press the pedal, a sensor tells the computer how far you pressed, and the computer tells a motor to open the throttle plate accordingly. The throttle position sensor is constantly monitoring that throttle plate angle and reporting it back to the ECU. Your computer uses that throttle position data to determine how much fuel to inject. Throttle wide open? Lots of fuel. Barely open? Very little fuel. This sensor is critical for smooth acceleration and good fuel economy. Here's the problem. Over time, carbon deposits and oil vapors build up inside your throttle body, especially around the throttle plate and the bore where it sits. This buildup creates a rough surface that disrupts airflow. Even when the throttle plate is fully open, that carbon is restricting how much air can actually get through. So what happens? Your ECU sees the throttle position sensor saying the plate is wide open, but the MAF sensor is saying less air is coming in than expected. The computer gets confused and starts dumping in more fuel to compensate. Plus, with that restricted airflow, you have to press the gas pedal harder to get the same acceleration, which means you're opening the throttle more, which means more fuel. A dirty throttle body can cause rough idle, especially a high idle, because the computer is trying to compensate for restricted airflow. You'll get poor acceleration, sometimes stalling, and definitely reduced fuel economy. The good news? Cleaning your throttle body is one of the easiest maintenance tasks you can do, and the results are immediate. You'll feel the difference the second you start driving. Here's how to do it. First, locate your throttle body. It's between your air filter and your intake manifold. You'll need to remove the air intake tube to access it, usually just a couple of clamps. Once it's exposed, you'll see the throttle plate inside. Grab a can of throttle body cleaner. Not carb cleaner, not MAF cleaner, throttle body cleaner. Spray it liberally on the throttle plate and all around the bore. You'll see that carbon start breaking down immediately. Use a soft cloth or an old toothbrush to scrub away the buildup. Get in there and really clean it. You want that bore and throttle plate to look like new metal. One important thing: if you have an electronic throttle body, don't force the throttle plate open with your hand. Let the cleaner do the work, or you can have someone turn the key to the on position without starting the car and very gently press the gas pedal to open it slightly. Forcing it can damage the motor or throw off the calibration. Once it's clean, let it dry for a few minutes, then reassemble everything. Now here's the thing. Some cars need an idle relearn procedure after you clean the throttle body. The computer has been compensating for that dirty throttle for so long that it needs to recalibrate to the clean one. Check your owner's manual or look up the relearn procedure for your specific car. Sometimes it's as simple as letting the car idle for 10 minutes. Sometimes you need a scan tool. Do this every 30,000 to 50,000 miles, and your throttle response will stay crisp and your fuel economy will stay optimal. Sensor 4. Engine coolant temperature sensor. Alright, sensor number 4 is sneaky because it doesn't seem like it would affect fuel economy at all. I'm talking about your engine coolant temperature sensor, or ECT sensor. So what does this sensor do? Pretty simple. It monitors the temperature of your engine coolant. When you first start your car on a cold morning, that coolant is cold. As the engine runs, it heats up. Your ECT sensor is constantly measuring that temperature and sending the data to your ECU. Now here's why that matters for fuel economy. When your engine is cold, it needs a richer fuel mixture to run properly. Just like old cars had a choke that would enrich the mixture on cold starts, modern fuel-injected engines do the same thing electronically. Your ECU looks at the coolant temperature sensor and says, "Okay, engine's cold. I need to inject more fuel." As the engine warms up, the ECU gradually leans out the mixture until you're at that optimal 14.7:1 ratio. This is totally normal and necessary. A cold engine needs more fuel because fuel doesn't vaporize as well in cold conditions, and the oil is thicker, creating more internal resistance. But here's where it becomes a huge problem. If your coolant temperature sensor fails or starts giving false readings, your ECU thinks the engine is colder than it really is. So even when your engine is fully warmed up and you've been driving for 20 minutes, the sensor might be telling the computer it's still cold. What does the ECU do? It keeps running that rich cold start fuel mixture. It's like driving around with the choke on all the time. You are absolutely guzzling fuel. A bad coolant temperature sensor can easily reduce your fuel economy by 10 to 15%, sometimes more. And the worst part is, it might not even trigger a check engine light for a long time. The sensor might just be reading slightly off, not enough to throw a code, but enough to kill your gas mileage. Symptoms of a bad ECT sensor include poor fuel economy, obviously, but also hard starting when the engine is hot because the computer thinks it's cold and floods it with fuel. You might notice your cooling fans running all the time or not running when they should. Eventually, you'll get a check engine light with codes P0115 through P0119. Those are all coolant temperature sensor related. Now, unlike the other sensors we've talked about, cleaning your coolant temperature sensor almost never works. These sensors fail internally. The thermistor inside degrades over time and gives bad readings. Cleaning the outside does nothing. What you can do is check the electrical connector for corrosion. Sometimes a corroded connection will cause bad readings. Clean those terminals with some electrical contact cleaner and dielectric grease. If you want to test the sensor, you can do it with a multimeter. Pull the sensor out, which is usually located on your engine block or cylinder head near the thermostat housing. Stick it in a pot of water with a thermometer. Heat up the water and measure the resistance of the sensor at different temperatures. You can look up the resistance chart for your specific vehicle, but generally, at 68 degrees Fahrenheit, it should be around 3,000 ohms. At 104 degrees, around 1,500 ohms, and at 176 degrees, around 300 ohms. If your readings are way off, the sensor's bad. The good news? These sensors are cheap, usually 15 to 40 bucks. Super easy to replace. Just let your engine cool down first, because you'll be draining a little bit of coolant when you pull it out. Swap it out, top off your coolant, and you're good to go. Your fuel economy will thank you. Sensor 5. Manifold Absolute Pressure Sensor. And finally, sensor number 5, the Manifold Absolute Pressure Sensor, or MAF Sensor. Now, not every car has one of these. Some cars use only MAF sensor, some use only MAP sensor, and some cars use both. You need to check what your specific vehicle has. So what does the MAP sensor do? It measures the air pressure inside your intake manifold. When you're cruising down the highway at a steady speed, there's low demand on the engine, and you've got high vacuum in the intake manifold, which means low absolute pressure. When you stomp on the gas and the throttle opens wide, vacuum drops and absolute pressure increases. Your ECU uses this pressure data to calculate engine load. High pressure means high load. You're accelerating hard, so the computer knows to inject more fuel. Low pressure means low load. You're just cruising, so it injects less fuel. The MAP sensor is essential for fuel economy because it tells the computer exactly how hard the engine is working at any given moment. Some cars, especially turbocharged ones, rely heavily on the MAP sensor because it can measure boost pressure as well. When you're in boost and making power, that MAP sensor is feeding critical data to the ECU. Now here's what goes wrong. The MAP sensor has a small port or opening that connects it to the intake manifold, either directly or through a vacuum hose. Over time, carbon buildup, oil vapors, and general crud can clog that port. When that happens, the sensor can't accurately measure the pressure anymore. If the port is partially clogged, the sensor might read lower pressure than reality, making the ECU think the engine load is lower than it actually is. So it doesn't inject enough fuel, you lose power, and you have to press the gas pedal harder to compensate, which ends up using more fuel overall. Or if it reads higher pressure, the ECU thinks you're under heavy load and dumps in too much fuel. Either way, you lose. Bad MAP sensor readings can cause poor fuel economy, lack of power, rough idle, hesitation, and eventually a check engine light with codes P0105 through P0109. Cleaning a MAP sensor is pretty straightforward. First, locate it. It's usually bolted directly to your intake manifold or connected to it via a vacuum hose. If it's connected by a hose, check that hose first. Make sure it's not cracked, kinked, or disconnected. A vacuum leak will give you the same symptoms as a bad MAP sensor. Remove the sensor by unplugging the electrical connector and removing the bolts or pulling it off the hose. You'll see the sensor element inside, and you'll see the port that connects to the manifold. Spray the sensor element with MAF Sensor Cleaner or Electronics Cleaner. Don't use anything harsh. Let it dry completely. Then take a small wire, a straightened paperclip works, or some compressed air and clean out that port on the intake manifold. That's where the clog usually is. Blow out any debris. Make sure air can flow freely through there. Reinstall the sensor. Make sure all vacuum lines are tight and not leaking, and you're done. If cleaning doesn't fix the problem, the sensor itself might be failed internally and needs replacement. MAF sensors are usually pretty cheap, $30 to $60. Do this every 50,000 miles, or if you notice any symptoms, and your engine will run smooth and efficient. So there you have it, 5 sensors that are quietly destroying your gas mileage. And now you know exactly where they are, what they do, and how to clean them. Do these 5 things, and you can easily save hundreds of dollars a year in fuel costs. We're talking a potential 20 to 40% improvement in fuel economy on a neglected car. That's real money back in your pocket. So here's my question for you. Which sensor are you gonna check first? Let me know in the comments. And if this video just saved you a couple $100, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I've got more money-saving car maintenance tips coming every single week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Now get out there and clean those sensors.